Hi, I hope you're fine and well. This time I want to give you a bit Gibson versus Epiphone, but from another point of view. Most Gibson versus Epiphone, it's the sound check, all that stuff, that means nothing to me. Because first, for a guitar, how it sounds, the guitarist is the key, you know. If Slash would play the cheapest Epiphone, 100 quid Epiphone, and I play my custom Gibson, then the Epiphone would sound much better than my $6,000 Gibson. So the guitar player is first, then the equipment. You have such good amplifiers meanwhile, and little helper stump box. Then, why is a Gibson 4 times more expensive? Why is it worth to spend that? I can go through the material of an Epiphone and the Gibson, and then you can make your own decision. First, Epiphone necks are made of 3 pieces. They are glued here together on the heel, on the joint of the body. So they glue in a long tenon, then they glue the neck on that, and they glue the headstock as well. So they can use much less wood, much thinner timber to make the neck, and then they glue a bit here and they glue a bit here. And when you look close on an Epiphone, you will see the joint. They can cover it quite good. It's not so easy to find, but when you hold it against the light, then you see where it's glued. That's also the reason they use 3 screws, you know, because it's just glued the headstock here and then also here. So they take a bit cheaper wood than Gibson, and Gibson doesn't have that. The neck is of 1 piece. The heel here, the connection to the body is 1 piece. The headstock, and it's a 70 degrees. Epiphone has a 14 degrees, so you need quite a big, large timber, wood timber of mahogany. And then Gibson has to use real mahogany, and when you ask a carpenter, he would say that the wood Epiphone needs and calls it mahogany. It's not real mahogany, it's more a substitute, it's a cheaper tree. But that doesn't mean it sounds not as good. It's just in their minds, you know. A Rolex is better than a Casio watch, but at the end of the day you see on both the time. Okay, so Gibson use much more wood. They have to cut out much more, but the neck is 1 piece. Juskowitz said in an interview in 2014, because they asked him, because when you get close you see that the Epiphone neck is a bit lifted from the body, while the Gibson goes just in. The binding is flat, the rosewood to the body. It's just the rosewood that's up, but the neck is just flat to the body, and on Epiphones you see it's a bit lifted. And so he said the reason is because a Gibson has a thicker, larger fretboard, rosewood fretboard, than, let's say, the Indien Laurel on an Epiphone. Then the 17 degree, I hear that they have an issue with the tuning. That's absolutely not true. I own a lot of Les Paul in my life. In the last 50 years I owned so many Gibson Les Paul, Epiphone Les Paul, copies, ESP, whoever copied Les Paul. The 70 degree angle is absolutely no issue. I have guitars in the case, 5 years, I take them out, they're nearly tuned, you know. You don't have to change a lot. When you watch through a concert, outside, inside, the Gibson guitar players, they have rarely to tune the guitar, while the Fender guys, look at Jimi Hendrix concert on YouTube, he tunes his guitar after each song. Clapton the same. I saw Clapton many times with Blackie. All the time he was tuning the guitar. I went to many Paul McCartney concerts. He plays a lot of Les Paul, his Les Paul. He never tunes his guitar, you know. So if you have a tuning issue with a Gibson, then it's not good wired. Then you have you don't have to turn the string 4, 5, 6 times, whatever, and if it overlaps, then you can't tune it. If the neck has a bit an issue, then put a bit wax in that he can move. Don't file it. That's really dangerous. If you file yourself, you can have a buzzing guitar after. So be careful with that. Okay, tuning. That's I don't know why people say that. I mean, I had so many Les Pauls. I never the least problems I had with tuning was always on my Gibson Les Pauls. I don't know why this is so everybody talks of that, and it's just not true. And then the body. Gibson, on the older ones, there is a one-piece body, or on some custom models, but you can't find that quality of wood in that size anymore, or it's not payable. And so they glue together a two-piece, while Epiphone has often 3 or 4. That's also cheaper. As smaller the timbers are, as cheaper they are. And then they cover it with a veneer. So the material used on a Gibson are much more expensive. They use much more bigger timbers, and they have much more loose of cutout. So the material they use costs more than the double that the material that's used on an Epiphone. Then the electronics. The Chinese ones, 10 years ago when I was in China, I saw that you could buy Chinese humbuckers for $5. And now they have in Ginseng, in the Ginseng factory in Korea, they make the ProBuckers, the high-end Epiphone humbuckers, and they are now on the homepage of Epiphone $169, so they're quite expensive. So each one is close to $85. And Ginseng is a high-end electronic factory, and so the ProBuckers are really of good quality. And then the American made, they are made on high-end Swiss working benches, so this is Swiss quality, you know, how they can work on a bench. And it's all hand wired, and the high-end, the custom buckers, a pair of custom high-end humbuckers costs close to $500, $489. And then the burst puckers, they are over 200 each one, and the low end, the classic ones, they are potted like the ProBuckers. That means they go in a waxing bath, and they are also one is around $112, $116. Also the single coil. I mean, a humbucker, as you know, they are just 2 single coils together, and then they turn one in the opposite direction, so it stops to hum. And the finishing is a nitro cellulose. The nitro cellulose you can put on much thinner on the guitar body, and they say the guitar has more resonance than polyurethane. That's what Epiphone uses. But don't forget, those are the key information that from Epiphone and Gibson. Some guitar models have exceptions and have different pickups or finishings. I mean, Gibson is famous for producing a high-end product, so they're a bit trapped in that. They have to put Grover from Grossmann, and that was in the 1920s. German immigrant started to produce these machine heads, and the Grovers are made in Cleveland, Ohio, and Clouson, the other company, is in Fort Myers in Florida. So everything is American made on a Gibson. So the price difference is just, it's not alone the materials, but the materials on a Gibson costs around the double. You know, in Nashville, maybe the average wage is $14. in Qingdao in China, the average for an unskilled worker starts at $4 and goes up to $7. And then now they move, because China becomes expensive, so they move now slowly to, like Piras have a factory, they build only Piras, the SC, the student edition models in Indonesia. And in Indonesia the average wage is $1.49, 10 times under the American market. So when you talk about this high price, then think about your own job, you know, when you work in the industry, and then think there are 10 guys there waiting in Asia to do your job. Gibson can never produce a guitar for the same price as Epiphone. They can just take more expensive material, more material, better material, but then that means the price goes even higher, and then they have to pay the wages. And if these guitars would be too expensive, then why Gibson went bankrupt in 2018? Why Fender reduced their staff from 10 years ago from 3,700 employees to 3,000? When you read the interview of Mooney, the CEO of Fender, he said now in the last 3 years with the COVID, that brought the market back, you know, so that was a big success for Gibson and for Fender, but they really needed that. And then if you look Guitar Center, the biggest guitar stores in the United States, they asked for the Chapter 11 because they went bankrupt. And so think of that. If you're not ready to pay more for an American product or European product, there are 10,000 jobs, you know, that they would be gone and would never come back. So be careful. Think next time when you talk, when you criticize, first the guitar player is the most important, then the equipment, we have great equipment, and then the guitar itself. If you buy Gibson, you have a certain investment that comes back. When you buy Epiphone, and now they have these artists and custom mades, and so even my Jobonamassa Lazarus is made of 2-piece, like a Gibson, not glued of 3-4 pieces, and even the neck, doesn't have this joint glued together. So also with guitars, some Epiphones, they're now over $1,000, around $1,000. They are also of better quality materials than the standard lines. So I hope I gave you some information and gave you a bit a different point of view, not to say, oh, Gibson is overpriced, Epiphone is as good as Gibson. Epiphone is great, and they make artists model the Slash or the Jobonamassa. That's not anymore a beginner's or an intermediate guitar. As an advanced player or even professional, they can play the Jobonamassa Lazarus, American pickups, great wood, everything. You can go on stage, you can make a tour. The high-end Epiphones are absolutely professional, usable guitars. You can play all day long, 5-6 hours, rehearsal, gigging, traveling. And Gibson is really a top high-end guitar, and I think that goes nowhere to make these comparisons, because is it as it is? America will never be able to make a guitar that cheap as China or Indonesia can do it, but they are damned to invest to buy the most expensive materials. What Epiphone is it's always a bit in the challenge of all the other Asian brands, so they have to look that they don't spend too much, so they have to do a bit cheaper but high quality instruments, and they have to take the best and to do the best finish. If it's worth to spend 3 or 4 times, it's up to you. I think yes, because a Gibson is beside to buying also an investment. If you think back, $59,275, now $500,000. No one else, no other brand can do that, you know. Okay, thank you for watching. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.